So Times Person of the Year is the I think they call them the silence breakers, the women, and few men, but mostly, the victims, basically the victims of sexual abuse, who have finally started really just breaking their silence, like as that title tends to say. I think it's a good pick. I mean, hell, it's better than picking Trump for sure. And I think this is probably one of the most progressive, socially progressive things that could have happened, because for a long time, I think everybody kind of knew that men sucked. And now it's like people are like kind of like a lot of women are actually stepping up and, saying it. And,
Yeah.
and rightfully so, because this is a long time coming.
Right. I mean, it's like a good year. I mean, not that's not the right good isn't the right term, but like it's a good. I guess it's a good time for like these sort of things to be coming to light, because it's like in the same way that like police were being like brutalizing like minorities. Like nobody knew, but it was happening, and now like it's out there in the open because of all these cases that are coming out, and now there's like the cameras and all that. It's the same situation. It's like this has been happening for years and years and years, but like now it's all coming out, and there's still that like societal thing of everybody being like, "Holy shit! Like I didn't know that was like men are like harassing women. That's crazy." And you're like, no, it's been happening for years. Yeah. And like, it's like it's cool that like all this stuff is finally coming to light.
Yeah, for sure. I think
In 2007.
yeah, and I think the one of the things that I've personally gotten out of this is the fact that like since so many victims are actually speaking up about this, it's also kind of brought to light a lot of the microaggressions that like us as as a cis male gender, we kind of perpetuate without really knowing. Like,
I know.
like obviously, when we were younger, I'm sure we did this a lot. I know, like when I was looking back and like actually reflecting, I was like, good fucking lord, I did not know that these things, like some of the shit that I did, affected women, affected the culture, affected, perpetuated the misogyny, that the way that it did. And I mean, I've never really been a predator, but like that still doesn't excuse the fact that like a lot of this, a lot of behavior that I did, and even things that now like that I have to really like
Just check yourself
yeah,
on.
because we've all been conditioned. Like I think like societally as men, like it's like you hear that like if you are being if you are white and being raised in Western culture, there is no way you don't have racist tendencies. You would have to be a hermit. And I think that is very much the same way when it comes to men, and just in general, like globally. I think that as men, like there would be no like we would literally have to be hermits and not be affected by media or people at all for us not to be
Because you're saying
misogynist.
you're so like inundated with it, like all movies like that. The whole like speech that who was it Reese Witherspoon went on about how like every movie has a scene where a woman is like, "What do we do now?"
Yeah.
And the man is like, "Like I got you, girl." like yeah, you like it's you see it growing up all the time. I mean, it's like in Disney movies. It's in every movie. So like yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why we communicate with women on such a patronizing and shitty level is because, we've been in control for so long, and we've been, creating all of this media that kind of perpetuates all these male fantasies and just kind of ignoring reality, setting up a life that's really, really comfortable for ourselves, but not being willing to even hear the other side of that, And so now And I guess you can attribute it to not only just social progress, but the way that things like the internet has kind of leveled a lot of playing fields as far as like visibility is concerned, and getting voices heard. But now we're starting to hear it, and it's up to us now to, police ourselves and each other, and make sure that, we're doing right by
Yeah.
the women on this planet,
And I think like a really big step in that is to really just, lessen our defenses, like just kind of take them down, and just listen. Like we really do need to listen to the women in our lives, and just women in general. I think the three of us having at least some semblance of color. I kind of how I do it is I relate it to the fact that like whenever I tell a lot of my white friends, like, or white people who I have this discussion with, like I always say, like, I know it's gonna suck to hear this because it's been so normalized, but like you got to get that knee-jerk defensiveness down. And it's just like the same thing now, from a gender standpoint. We just have to do the same thing, and we have to keep open ears about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard also, you don't want to go the other route of it and be like savior thing where you're like, well, like I'll protect your rights, because then you're like right back where you started, yeah. And it's like, but I feel like it's so easy to like do, or because like in a way, it's like when white people are like, I can help this situation because like I have black friends, and you're like, and I'm the like powerful white person, and you're like, no, that doesn't really work that way.
Making it so much worse.
Yeah, it's like making it. It's like I get it, like good intentions, but.
Well, it also reeks of the whole idea of like, we're gonna fix these problems, but we're gonna do it on our terms,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not the way to do these things. It's like you have to shut up, you have to listen, you have to calm down, and make sure that when somebody says something to you, your first reaction isn't putting your fists up,
Mm-hmm.
And just listen and be prepared to apologize.
Yeah.
Which is not how we're raised at all.
True.
Like dudes are raised to defend themselves and to fight other people, and
like very literally, yeah.
Yeah. And it's reinforced not just by, the people directly in our lives, it's reinforced by the media constantly. And so I think we just have a lot of deconditioning that we have to do. I'm planning to write about it soon. But it's how we're going to have to be going forward. It's the new man, and we're just going to have to embrace that and find a way to make this place inhabitable for everybody.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been. Like, let's be real. There's been one type of person for at least the past 600-700 years setting themselves up to be the most comfortable people on the planet.
Yeah.
And everybody else just kind of supports that notion.
Well, like, yeah, I mean, like, everybody wants to be comfortable. Like, if it's like, it makes sense, I guess, like, you're always just trying to, like, reach stasis, or whatever. And so, like, if, like, that many years ago, that was the way to do it, like, that's not excusable in the least, but it's like, I guess. But, like, yeah, now that like there are other people involved, you need to like start to think about other people. Did you guys watch the SNL Welcome to Hell video?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
oh, man,
that was great.
So good.
That was really good. Yeah,
it was good.
Outside of obviously the number one priority being to just listen, just shut up and listen. The other thing that we as men probably need to tackle is toxic masculinity. I know, like things like when Jay-Z kind of like took a whole bunch of like dudes of color and kind of just talked about like the vulnerabilities or just the difficulties that they faced as far as like themselves in their relation. Like I think it was like him that he had like Jesse Williams, a few other actors. Aziz Ansari was in there. And just these like really masculine, well, maybe not so much Aziz, just joking Aziz, but really just like really,
Yes, because he's listening right now.
but like, like just these guys just really being open and vulnerable and just kind of breaking down the whole machismo prototype that's just so enforced and highlighted and like just like held up as the end all be all for men to be. I think stuff like that is important. I think we really do need to start breaking down, and like we need to start like disassociating masculinity with one type of gender or femininity with one type of gender. I think that definitely would be a really big obligation in our part.
Yeah, I was thinking literally just now. Maybe I'm like really not up on like YouTube videos and all that stuff, but I think like a really interesting case study to do would be to like have a GoPro on a woman on her day to day and just see what that looks like. Because I was thinking about like how when we walk down the street, like we don't see any of that. Like we don't really see any of the like crazy shit that goes on for women on a day to day basis. And then when you're with a woman walking down the streets, you see some of it, because even though she's with somebody else, like you still see some of that kind of catcalling and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if you see it when you're with them, then it must be like
a million times
exponentially worse, right? So like I just think it would be like really interesting and enlightening to see that. And I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah,
there's a video of a woman walking down the street, and there's somebody walking in front of her who attached a GoPro to their backpack, and you see the amount of catcalling that she endures. And they said that she didn't even add all of them to the list or to the video, but it's a lot of it, and it's insidious.
I guess
there
it'd be
are guys
cool
who
like that
follow her for like blocks.
Yeah. Like that. Like I think it'd be like interesting if that were like a thing that you could get like a bunch of women to do. You know what I mean? Like if you had funding and you could get a bunch of GoPros and just like give them to women and be like, do this thing, put it on YouTube under, the hashtag or whatever. It would just be, I feel like it really, because exactly like I'm saying, like I don't really know, I'm not on YouTube all the time or anything, but like, so I didn't see that. So if you could like really like put it out there and get a bunch of people to do it, I think it'd be like really super enlightening. I don't know. It'd just be an interesting thing to see, but I don't know how feasible that is.
Yeah. Also, just to bring this up, since we kind of started this discussion with Time Magazine and their Person of the Year, it's interesting that they have a lot of people on the cover, including Taylor Swift, who has suffered, I'm sure, and one case in particular, she suffered her share of harassment. But the woman that actually started the Me Too movement started it like 10 years ago, apparently, and it was a black activist named Tarana Burke from Harlem. And she is just now getting that visibility, which went to, God, what is that actor's name? Rose McGowan was given the credit of starting that hashtag, which I kind of also highlights the fact that, like, Brandon, you've seen the Welcome to Hell video, but when Leslie Jones comes in and says, this is all cute and all, but you do know it's like a million times worse for women of color, right? And like I think this omission of Miss Burke is definitely like the prime example of that. Just to bring that up and also give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like Rose McGowan talking about all this stuff with Max Weinstein, and then Lupita Nyong'o told her own story and nobody even paid attention to it, Well,
on top of that, Weinstein also like denied Lupita Nyong'o's story completely, but he had nothing to say about any of the other ones. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
that's some
exactly
bullshit. But
yeah. It's also, I mean, we talked about R. Kelly. It's the same thing with R. Kelly. If R. Kelly was like, R. Kelly's a pedophile. Yeah. Everybody knows that shit.
Everybody is.
R. Kelly likes women below the age of consent. And because they are young black women, it gets no attention. He's even been on trial. Everybody knows he did that shit. There's a fucking tape. And the man's still not in jail. There's no defense for it. You know? It's just like these cops that kill black people on camera.
Yeah.
You know, it's on tape. You don't need any more proof than that.
And I mean, like, obviously, even beyond R. Kelly, like the trafficking situation that affects so many women of color, or girls of color, I should say, like just underage, like teenagers. You know what I mean? They're being, like, they're missing, they're being abducted, they're being trafficked, and it does not get any attention, like, at all.
Until fucking Rose McGowan says something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that'll be like the next thing, you know? Because it's like, that's what the trend, you know, the trend is not a great word again, but anyways, like, that's what's...
You're really fucking up tonight, Brandon.
I don't know. But it's like something, you know, there's all sorts of shit there's a population that knows this is going on, and it's been tried to, you know, people have been trying to bring it to light, but it hasn't worked for whatever reason. And now there's, like, you know, it's the time when people are kind of like, okay, like, now I have an avenue to express this thing and kind of put it out there in the world and get a little bit of attention to it. And maybe that's next, you know?
Well, Jane Fonda's the one who actually brought it up. Like, she was like, Harvey Weinstein is getting hit hard, as he should, but it definitely, like, helped that, like, the victims that have been stepping up are white and famous, whereas a lot of women of color would not have gotten this type of reaction.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, even collectively. By the way, Despacito is not the #1 song of the year as far as Billboard sales go. This is very strange to me. Yeah, I didn't... I would have bet money that it would be.
Who is?
Shape of You by Ed Sheeran.
I don't know, man. I don't understand the whole Ed Sheeran thing. Like, I don't know.
I mean...
Well, okay, here's the thing. Like, which is the one that's like the redhead white kid?
That's Ed Sheeran.
Oh, God, I got...
That's Ed Sheeran. Yeah. And I just, like, something about, like, I know that, like, appearance, whatever, but, like, I can't get into it. I don't know why.
Are you saying you don't like redheaded white kids? Oh,
yeah,
man,
I mean, kind of.
There goes
like, kind of.
There goes a 16th of our demographic. Full Metal Workshop has just lost several of its redheaded white viewers for racist comments.
I know. And then which one is the one that was on Game of Thrones? Is that the same one?
Yeah, that was him.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
The one who said one line, and then throughout that whole scene, they kept showing shots of him not saying anything.
Well, because they paid for it, so they were like, "We're gonna get our money's worth." But he also sang during the thing, right?
Yes.
I feel like that was like a little bit weak, you know? Like, I don't know. Like, it's too expected. Like, if you had like Lady Gaga on Game of Thrones, it'd be cool because she'd be like in a meat suit or whatever. But but if she sang, it'd be so obvious. You'd be like, okay, like, cool. Like,
she was on American Horror Story. She was actually the star of the 5th season of American Horror Story, I think.
Right, and they didn't like Lady Gaga her up. She was just a character.
I mean, the show is kind of already Lady Gaga'd up, like.
Oh, really?
Way before she was on it. Like, it was definitely like one of those platforms where it was like, this is perfect for her. Whereas if you see Game of Thrones and you're like, yeah, Ed Sheeran suits this perfectly. This is great for Ed Sheeran.
Well, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, I agree to some extent. Although I will say Ed Sheeran does have, like, really good songwriting skills. But, like, Ben brought this up and, like, it kind of it's funny to me because he infuriated him. And I hope he talks about this a little bit. How Shape of You has an incredibly good beat. Like, I completely agree with that. Every time it comes on, it's like, yeah, and then Ed Sheeran starts singing, and it's like, oh.
Who does his beats? Is it him? It's not him.
It's him.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he has, like, other people there,
make
too.
That beat.
No, but he made... I mean, he did. Whenever you see him actually play the song, it's just him. It's him, his keyboard, and his looper, and his acoustic guitar.
So you think that he actually does Is that how he does it live? Do you know?
Yeah, he's done that at the Grammys live. He does that at several shows live.
I mean, on the one hand, like, it's easy to, like, hate on that kind of shit, but on the other, it's like he probably got there for a reason. Like, he wasn't Disney, Like, maybe he's talented.
I don't know.
Color Correspondence was produced by Jonah Q with music also by Jonah Q. This is a Full Metal Workshop podcast. If you like it, please subscribe. For more info on Full Metal, you can visit fullmetalworkshop.com, find us on Facebook or on Instagram at Full Metal Workshop.